that was the first time I said to myself, yeah, the only thing that's going to really blow this open is going to be some sort of legal action. And I asked the SPLC what we should do. They gave me a form to fill out. They said and over the next couple of months, we developed a kind of plan, which was the SPLC would become involved on an official basis. They would I would submit the request again on my own initiative, and the SPLC would copy my request and put their logo on it and submit it. So basically, what we did was I submitted the request, the SPLC submitted the exact same document under their banner, and the college responded to both of us.
So why did the Ledger not become involved in this art?
From the time that Rachel asked me to remove myself from the story as a Ledger reporter, I just said, okay, the Ledger's out of it. I have never actually asked Rachel what her reasons for, I think she has since defined that reason in the Ledger by saying that it's not the position of the student newspaper to engage in legal action of this kind. That's my completely baseless interpretation of it. Basically, for what the Ledger's position is, you got to ask her, I think, and you've got to read what she published in August, or not in August, in October, after we filed the lawsuit. I always found that a little vague, but it doesn't matter at this point. It's just Rachel made the decision as a future editor-in-chief of the Ledger to not involve the Ledger on it anymore, and I respect that.
So during this process, while you were still with the Ledger, and it was still the spring, how involved was the advisor in this? I mean, who did you guys go to?
Well, there's the thing. After Rachel asked me to remove myself from the story as a Ledger reporter, I had intended to do that in every sense. I had intended to just walk away from it. I had plans to maybe try to become the managing editor for the next semester. And move on to just move on.
Yeah.
The story was done. We were going to do as much. And then in June, Ann Christensen Bullers was suddenly reassigned away from the position of advisor. Mm-hmm. As I've told others before, there is no evidence whatsoever that I have not spoken with Ann about it at all, because I didn't want to get her involved. There is no evidence that decision to reassign her was made in malice or in other circumstance, and I don't claim that's a fact, because I don't know. But I suspect it. The coincidence just, we did this, and then she gets reassigned after, to this day I would like an answer from the college about that, exactly what the reason, for doing that was. Of course, that'll never happen after everything, so it's just history at this point. But that was my reason for coming back into it. I said, well, if that's going to happen, if Ann's going to get reassigned after this, and that's how the whole event has proceeded, then I want to see this through. I want to make sure that our efforts will produce something. So that's from there. We just strictly followed the SPLC's plan, because I at every point I've deferred to their reasons, deferred to their expertise.
So during the summer you're not employed on the Ledger? Well, obviously, because no one's employed.
No one's employed in the Ledger during the summer, right? Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing for me is that. Mm-hmm. How did the SPLC take the case when technically you guys weren't students and there was no paper at the time?
Yeah, the SPLC got involved because it was an effort that started with a student newspaper, and in their viewpoint, that's all that was required. It was a story that a student newspaper tried to cover and was completely blocked in that regard. Okay. Doesn't matter if it was the student newspaper from 2010, 2011, or whenever. It was an effort that a student newspaper tried to pursue, and couldn't because the college was uncooperative.
Okay. So then, when did you become separated from the ledger entirely? How did that happen?
I have not represented the ledger in any circumstance since May 2011.
But you had planned to come back in the fall and be the managing editor and be on staff.
Well, I planned to try. Yeah. I didn't get anything from Rachel officially. It was just a kind of like, maybe it's something I can do. But
I mean, was there a process of where you applied for the job, but you went through the interview, or they just?
Well, I never applied for the position. I never applied. I only the only time that I applied to do anything for the Ledger in fall 2011 was when was in August, before we had filed the suit and before the knowledge of the possibility of a lawsuit was public. I didn't file anything. I wrote a letter to Rachel saying, "Hey, Rachel, just kind of test the waters. Mm-hmm. Is there any position at the Ledger that you think might be suitable for me this semester?" And she came back and said, "Unfortunately, no."
As somebody who's been invested in the Ledger for that long period of time, mm-hmm. to kind of abruptly be told there's no place for you, what is that? How did you take that?
I partially blame myself because I didn't ask about it officially. I didn't write a letter to Rachel asking what she might have for me until August. Mm-hmm. And traditionally, if you want a job in the Ledger and want to have a good chance of getting one, you need to do it before July. So it was mostly my fault. Other than that, I can't speculate as to what Rachel's reasons for making the decision that she did. After we had heard back from the college, which stuck to their figure of roughly $25,000 for everything we were looking for overall, and I want to just note that of that figure, roughly $25,000, $10,000 was for 1 day's worth of emails, and that was the real kicker. We were like, no, I don't think so. That's not possible. Once we got that the college delivered that response to the SPLC, to their round of requests, and to me personally via mail. And at that point, we were like, okay, so a lawsuit is in the cards here. We're trying to avoid it. We really don't want to go into court. I was deathly afraid to go to court because I knew that things in that kind of setting never really go the way you want them to, and I didn't want to have to go on the stand and maybe answer questions that I found uncomfortable. I didn't want to do any of that. So the notion that the college put out, which was that I wanted to sue them, that I wanted to get them into court, I wanted to make them look bad, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Because I don't think that way. I don't think in a conspiratorial way. I'm afraid of being under that kind of scrutiny. Very much so. But that's how it turned out, and I decided that despite my fear, despite my hesitation, this was where we needed to go. And so in August, Brian Cave responded to the pamphlet that I had filled out, looking for a pro bono attorney for representation. And Brian Cave approved that Christopher Grins could work for us on a pro bono basis.
So during these kind of negotiation processes, mm-hmm. did you guys physically meet with the college, or was it through email?
We never, in order to discuss where we were going up in the run-up to the lawsuit, the only personal meeting that I had with representatives of the college was back in May with Sopcich and Warner and company.
Okay. So there was never a time when it was the college and just you by yourself?
No.
Okay, so then once the legal team was assembled, then mm-hmm. what did you guys?
We decided we just kind of discussed strategy, which way we wanted to handle this. The college will, of course, be eager to know if you ask them about it, that we didn't give them a cease and desist or anything like that. We didn't give them any kind of warning that they were about to be sued. And that was a decision we made because for strictly on the principle of Cora law and exactly, the Cora law and exactly how it works. And in our opinion, the college completely disregarded state law, and no warning should have been required to that end. Once we had filed the lawsuit in October, if I recall what Christopher Grants told me at the time, the college had a roughly 15 to 20 day time period to file either an acknowledgement or an answer. The difference between the two being an acknowledgement means, well, okay, we're sorry, we're going to give you what you want, and so just settle it that way. Mm-hmm. Or an answer would be, well, your case is wrong because ... And if they had filed an acknowledgement, that would have led directly to settlement negotiations, which is essentially what happened on a more informal basis. And an answer would have led to a court battle. If they had done that, if they had said, well, you're wrong and we're not going to give you what you want even now, and there's no chance of that happening, then we would have gotten a court date, we would have had hearings, and who knows where that would have ended up. I'm very glad it didn't end up at that point, because as I said, I was deathly afraid of being put on the stand and being forced to answer questions under a setting where if I got one detail wrong, it would be tough.
So the college filed an acknowledgement, and then that triggered the negotiations for settlement? No,
they did not file anything, to the best of my knowledge. Okay. They never actually responded in a way that the court could see to our case. They simply came back, and from the point that the lawsuit was filed, kind of indicated that they would be willing to reach in a settlement with us without going into the court. And the SPLC and Brian Cave determined that, okay, so they're willing to be reasonable, at least at this point. And from that point, negotiations that I wasn't physically part of occurred between Chris, Mike Easton, and the college's general counsel. I think her name's Tanya Wilson. We have asked, why do they need to hire a third-party organization? Why do they need to go to all this expense to do something that should take a matter of hours at the very most with a search engine? And they have never been able to answer that question. Really, I think they're fully aware of the answer to that question, and they just refuse to answer it. And over a period of about a month and a half, they reached the conclusion that, okay, we're going to get the emails after the SPLC pays the college a $450 fee. The SPLC paid that fee, and they delivered the emails to Brian Cave, and Brian Cave then gave the emails to me. Their position was that they had found a simpler method of acquiring the emails. I think that the best term to be using to characterize that is magic. All of a sudden, oh wow, hey, we have literally conjured a new method that was previously completely unknown to us for finding this information. I did my very best to remain emotionally detached throughout the entire process, because I knew that if I got emotionally involved in it and made it about something else besides getting this information as a journalist, I would be prone to make a mistake. Because that's what I do. When I get angry, I make mistakes. And that might derail the entire process. I thought about that constantly. I was like, don't get emotionally involved. Don't let this make some kind of personal crusade for yourself. As for what Calloway said himself during the interview with the Ledger, I said in my letter to the editor, this man speaks for the college as he too often forgets. It's my opinion, based off of exactly nothing, but my interpretation, that he said that without thinking. He said the things that he said, because he was angry over the fact that the college was being taken to court.